From the beginning of this administration, we have tried to send a message of openness and inclusion, that we want to work with everyone that wants to work with us, and that goes for local elected officials to governments throughout the state and throughout the country. This event is a great opportunity to engage, to build relationships with partners that can ultimately help us to become a better community, and we're happy to help them as well. We have a code violations database, a home sales database, and we use all of that and overlay them on each other. So when we're providing our limited resources, namely in the form of community development block grant funding and home funding, that we're doing it in a way where we can maximize that investment.
I think not so much the absence of data is and something we talked about today was the differences between different cities. Everybody calls it a different piece of data something different, or they have their own unique twist on it. And if we can figure out ways to make the data standardized across, or more standard across cities, we can start to ask some really interesting questions. We can compare cities, who's doing better, who's doing worse, and why. How can we all do better? So it's not as much not getting data that we need, it's how can we make this data work better together.
We are using data now. We're looking at the permits that we're issuing, the different types of permits, looking at what the typical time frame is for issuing them, and using that to establish metrics that we can measure our permit desk from. So another example of where we're using the data, using information that we have. And I'll note, as we were talking about this morning with the permanent, sometimes information that we have that our departments are collecting but don't even really fully understand and appreciate how they can use it, using that information to, again, establish those metrics and be able to track them.
I think there's a lot of work to be done around data management. One of the things that a lot of people in the field talk about is when you look at most organizations, public and private, there's a chief financial officer. Nobody would dream of not having somebody in charge of all the financial assets and making sure they're managed properly. Same is true for big capital assets, bridges, roads. You have programs that make sure that these things are kept up over time. And we don't do that with data.
As much as our challenges that we're facing as a city, whether they're our fiscal challenges or our challenges with poverty, they are daunting, but they're not insurmountable. And I'm convinced with the right team, which I think we have, and the right technology, the right data, I'm very optimistic. I'm very hopeful about the city's future. A good idea is a good idea. It doesn't have to be ours. It doesn't have to be mine. So we're always looking for better ways to do things. And ultimately, again, our goal is to be seen as a modern, progressive city that is at the cutting edge of using data to improve people's lives. Because ultimately, that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve the community and to improve people's lives. And we think data is a really important part of that equation.
Thank you.